Yeah, I believe that, like, we're moving into a world of balance right now. So we don't want to go from one extreme to the other, but we definitely need to divvy it up and realize the importance of both so that we can, work together right now. And the only way for that to happen is for more women to step into more leadership roles, and and to battle this regime, because we won't ever know what it's like unless we have it like that.
Right.
We don't know. Not this age. This age was patriarchal age. Before, when we had matriarchal ages, yes, but it was the other way around. We don't want one way or the other. Right now, we're moving into, this. We've talked about this golden age that's happening, and this is balance.
What's up? What's up? What's up? This is your girl, Yuta K Best, and you are watching and or listening to Hella Random Radio, where positive energy lives.
I'm
All
with
right, here
that.
we go. Here we go. Here we go. My guest today is an epic MC, writer, father, brother, and integral piece of the world renowned independent hip hop crew, the Visionaries. Zen Zen and I met through a mutual friend in 2010, I think, and we immediately became siblings. What I know now that I didn't know then is that we have spent many lives trading karma and growing together, and this life is no exception. I am beyond grateful to have met this wonderful human and to get to process the challenges of life with such a spiritually astute being. How are you doing?
Well, let me give thanks for that first. Thank you very much. I'm chilling. I'm
You're
chilling.
chilling. I heard that.
Like, I'm chilling, man. Think, life is moving, but if you either move with it, or you get caught up in it. So,
Right.
um, I'm
Right.
chilling. I'm chilling. I
Right.
think in some shape or form, everything is what it is. So
Everything is what it
it
is.
always is. It
It
always is.
always is.
It always is. So,
I mean,
I'm
and to
chilling.
be hella random, like off top, I've started doing these morning meditations with this guy, Seven Bomar, who has a channel called Understanding on YouTube. And I just joined their Discord to do these Hemi Sync um, meditations where they play, you have to have headsets because they play sounds in different ears to kind of sync the hemispheres of the brain. And after the meditation, he was talking today about the fact that there is no mutiny on board, when we're talking about our bodies and the things that are happening. These things are all happening because a part of us wants them to happen, even if they're not enjoyable, to push us towards where, we kind of contracted to be before we incarnated. And so that's like my new phrase. There is no mutiny on board. And actually, I'm probably going to do a solo live tomorrow and talk about what a gift our illnesses are. So yeah, but anyway, so like you said, it always is what it is, and it's
Yeah.
probably a really good idea to go ahead and assume that there's no mutiny on board, and that no matter how fucked up shit is, we're just getting pushed to
Yeah.
where, we really
Yeah.
want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the more you are, the closer you get to the embodiment. I feel like, you still there's still things, they're not they're not what's the word, drastic, or world falling apart type of shit. We already,
Right.
you already been through that. You know, it may feel like the world's falling apart, but it really, really, really isn't. You know, really, what you're putting, you're knocking down walls at this point. You know, you're knocking down the walls of your own foundation at that point. You know, because if you if you if you really think about it, you know, everything is already done.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
like you can either you know, you got so many different possibilities, probabilities, or whatever you want to call them, and they're all done. So, you know, you either tune your radio station to this one or that one or whatever, you know, and if you tune yourself to this one and you end up going down that one and you end up feeling, you know, discord or, you know, illness, or whether that be mental, particle, or physical, you know, that's to get you to tune back, you know,
Right.
to tune back
Right.
to what it is that you are really working to express and to experience. I feel like it's
Right.
all there. And most of when you spoke of illness, the first thing that came to my mind was, you know, dis-ease.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's your reminder that you have been at dis-ease too long.
Mm.
You know, because your dis-ease has turned into a disease.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and it's all curable by you. You know,
It's all curable
whatever
by
man
you.
says, yeah, but it can all be cured by you, by
Right.
just freeing up and you know, and getting yourself back on track per se, you
Yeah.
know, which is usually just being yourself, which is such a crazy battle that we go through just to
I
be
mean, but
ourselves.
everything here is, I mean, the public school, yes, there are some good schools and some good teachers, but for the most part, this whole system is set up so that we are put into some sort of a box and not taught to honor our authenticity. So it is really, really difficult to be ourselves, but that definitely is the only way forward, to be happy, and
Yeah,
at peace,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I know a lot of people don't think that we're not supposed to be trying to be happy, but I think we can all agree that um, peace is something that we want, no matter what other adjectives, we're
yeah.
comfortable using to describe our desired state.
I feel like we get, you know, when we use the words joyous and we use the words like happy, we always, you know, there's this stir in us that, you know, that gives us this kind of fluttery feeling. And I feel like for a good majority, even those that are walking this planet awakened, um, it's something that has to be focused upon. I'm gonna feel happy right now. It's a choice to feel happy right now. And I feel like because there's so much different energy going on right now that we have to focus on the happy. But peace is something that you can feel just just by being.
Mm,
You know, you can just be in the now and just be at peace, you know, without having to muster up the energy to be happy. I mean, it's a, you know, it's a focal point. It's definitely a focal point that, you know, in a minute you can get yourself, you know, jazzed and ready. You
right, right,
know,
right.
but
Right.
you
But
know, a lot of
again,
times peace, peace
it's
is easy.
dangerous, you know, because authenticity is really where it's at, and yes, we can like shift out of sadness. Like right now, I'm like really in something of a grief cycle that I'm holding on to because I want to get as much out as I can while it's
Hmm.
present so I don't have to be
Hmm.
looking for it later, you
Right.
know. Um, but yeah, I can sit here right now, bring my awareness into the heart and start thinking about a wonderful situation that I had, and I can shift out of that. But, I know that I'm better served just by feeling the heaviness when the heaviness is present, giving it its time and space
Hmm.
and letting it
Hmm.
go.
Yeah, not explaining it away. You know,
Right, right,
I
right,
learned
right.
that.
And not um burying it, because that's what happens. We
Right,
bury it under the false facade or whatever we have
right,
created.
right,
Before you
right.
jump in, let me shout out these people in the chat. Um, Shout out to Wise Up in the place to be. Definitely check out Wise Up on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. They will be doing a dope after party to the Earthseed Raid Train. My favorite new DJ and streamer, Wise Up, in the place to be. Shout out to Sabia Spills. Um, she says that imagination is a powerful tool,
Yes, it is.
and probably the most powerful tool in
Mixed,
existence.
mixed with that
You know,
feeling. You gotta feel it. You imagine it and feel
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
You do
key.
want to get that feeling in there too. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to. I kind of pause because I'm thinking about Einstein, and I think he's one of those people who is like, intelligence or whatever is cool, but imagination is what we really, really want. And shout out to Joan64. Good evening. You must be in the UK or something talking about good evening. We are here in Denver, Colorado, and it is about 1:16 in the afternoon. But thank
12:16
y'all
here
so
on the
much
West
for
Coast.
being here. And you said 12:16 on the West Coast, Cali, 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 in the place to be. Thank you, Sabia Spills. Thank you. Please be safe. Um,
Yes, yes, peace, people, peace.
and Wise Up jumped on that to say, yeah, imagination plus the feeling work. Ashe, Quiet Keys. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Um, awesome. So yeah, imagination, happiness is a choice. We can heal ourselves with our minds and our belief systems. Like these things are all true, but I also never want to make it sound like it's simple or easy to
No,
really gain control and use those forces and abilities, you know, when we need them in the moment,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know. But yeah, and back to what you were saying about peace, like yeah, we can gather the energy, to make ourselves feel or express happiness, but we shouldn't have to gather the energy to be at peace. Like I can be
right.
sad and ugly crying
Mm-hmm.
and still at peace,
And be in peace
understanding that
because
this
you
is
have
that even that
right,
is a gift.
right, right. Because that, I mean, ultimately, we are to feel everything we need to feel, in a moment. Um, to that is the feeling is a guide. Is what
Mm,
vibration. You know, then the thought comes.
right.
You know, even in the Bible, when God said, "Let there be light." That means the vibration came first, and then it was light.
Mm,
You know, so you gotta create the vibration, which creates the spirals, the waves, whatever. And this is what brings everything into creation. So that's why the feeling is really important. But
right.
the feeling is what's the dial. So we are here to experience these feelings so that we can get a handle on them, and know them and identify, with them in the moment and let them do their work,
And use
because
them.
they're all healing. Yes, they're all
Right.
healing and they're all tools. It's just a tool. It's just a dial. Once you know how to tap into, we have our greatest actors that we love to see on screen,
Right.
and that's one of their many talents, is to be able to tap into emotion and tap into something, to feel something in the moment. And then cut. I've been on set to see it. When cut happens, and everybody is clapping, and there's this whole other whole other feeling after you're just like, oh shit, like going through this experience, and this is ultimately what we are learning. you know,
Right.
how to use our feeling and our thought to create our reality. You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
to live and function in the fifth dimension, and we cannot do that if we're thinking of all of this errant shit, because we'll be bringing it into our reality hella fast. So you know, we got to work it out. We got to work
Right.
it out, and this is
I
where
mean,
the
and that's
work comes
why,
in. Yeah,
right. I mean, and that's why I think like there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of heavy grief right now, because we do want to get to a place where we can use these feelings and be moved and guided to a certain extent by these feelings. But most of us have been taught to bury and repress and demonize the feelings for so long that before they can be a true guidance system, we got to purge.
yeah.
You know, we got to purge, we got to let go. And that's why, as much as it's never my favorite thing, I always am grateful for the tears.
Mm.
And I mean, and no less because my mom transitioned in 1995,
Mhm.
and I just pretended that she was somewhere without a phone. And I got two more jobs. Like, so I didn't process that grief at all. I didn't My mom passed in 1995. I started intentionally processing that grief probably in like 2018.
Wow.
And so I know that I have a lot to catch up on. And I think that most humans, probably all over the world, but certainly in the United States, where hustle reigns supreme, we have a lot of catching up to our feelings to do.
Yeah, I feel like you mentioned 1995, and I lost my cousin in
Mm.
1995, 4 years younger than me, and just to some street shit, you know. And not even like the worst, like he didn't get shot, he was in the hands of the cops, and just it's a whole other story. But it was um it was a pretty heavy moment for me. And I feel like for one of the first times I didn't allow myself to like just slide it away or be manly
Mm.
about it. I was mad, you know. I feel like my ability to, I was 27, about 27, going in, so my ability to cry from having kids. I feel like once you start having kids, the waterworks it start at any point. I think about my kids at any moment. I'll start crying right now. Uh, you know, so the tears could come, but it was more than that though. It was like the real weight of this person's absence and how it was going to
Mm.
affect our family and how we connected, because some of us were connected through him. So yeah, it was a trip. Like I actually rode on that for like a couple of few years before I was, like I feel like I wrote it in some songs, put them in some songs. And yeah, it was one of those that I actually worked through, and I feel like someone else in the family passed away somewhere around that time. I think my auntie, one of an older auntie, and I remember it, but I feel like at the time I was still working through him, and
Yeah.
to really even feel. But yeah, it's. I feel like we need to allow ourselves to go into those types of depths.
Yeah.
I've never been through anything that I wasn't later on in some way, shape, or form there for someone else when they were going through. I mean, I've always, in a moment where why is this, why is that, before I could even get to my own to the realization of taking it on as something that was for my own growth, I was always introduced to someone else going through
That you
the
guys
same
sent those
thing.
mirrors.
Hmm. And
Okay.
now, because I've gone through it, now I could be something for them that I didn't
Mm,
have, and to be
right.
able to now know from experience what I would say to myself,
Right.
how I would feel for myself.
Right.
But to give that energy to someone else helped us both move forward. If
Right.
sense. Yeah.
Right. Dope, dope, dope. And I definitely have some questions, but I'm kind of excited that Wise Up is asking for another intro. So I'm gonna read it again. So first of all, Wise Up says, I think a few of us missed the intro. Can we get a short version of who our guest is today? And yes, absolutely. I love that you asked that, Wise Up. My new apparently past life friend who I think is always reading my mind, because for the first time in this series, I have actually written an intro. And so I would love to reread it. But before I do that, let me shout out Bruce Willis into the place to be. He says, locked in, hope you're good. Utica best. Shout out to Bruce Willis, definitely one of the most epic independent basement DJs in the UK. So,
Of
so,
course.
so many records and so much knowledge. Shout out to DJ Cruz One in the place to be.
Peace, people, peace.
Yes,
Blessings.
thank all y'all for being here. Everybody follow everybody else. Shout out to Kim G, my sister Kina in the place to be. I always miss your name because you're calling yourself Quiet Key, and then I have to associate. Shout out to Joan64, Sabia Spills, and I think that's everyone who has chatted at this point. So back to the reintroduction. Wah, 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 wah. Here we go. My guest today is an epic MC, writer, father, brother, an integral piece of the world renowned independent hip hop crew, the Visionaries. Zen and I met through a mutual friend in 2010, I think, and we immediately became siblings. What I know now that I didn't know then is that we have spent many lives trading karma and growing together, and this life is no exception. I am beyond grateful to have met this wonderful human and to get to process the challenges of life with such an spiritually astute being. Lord Zen, ladies and gentlemen. Bruce Willis says he has your records.
Oh, word. Right on. Thank you.
Dope. Word up. So the
Word.
first thing that I want to kind of jump back into, because it's something that I actually have written down as a potential question, but you've already alluded to it. When you were talking about your cousin transitioning, you said that it was one of the first times that you decided to not be manly, and to go ahead and cry and let yourself emote for this transition. And I love talking about this idea of being manly, and the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and just emotions in general, because I really think that being able to in the moment honestly express the full breadth of our emotional experience is the only way that any of us get to the life that we deserve and we're born to have. And I think so many men have internalized this idea that it's not safe to feel or that they shouldn't feel because it's not
Mhm.
manly.
So for me, my son was born when I was 21,
Okay.
and being there for that after being in the service and doing, just other being some other shit, to see that was like, like cartoon tears and shit. Um, and I feel like that was one of the keys. Like that's what I said. If you reel it, I said, parenthood opened the floodgates with that. Um, mm, and I was always raised around what I would say are fairly balanced, both females and men that weren't afraid to share, sometimes over fucking share their their shit, where it's like,
Right.
bro, I got you, I got you. I'm still feeling you. But this particular thing was with my father,
Mm,
because my father, through his my grandmother, by the way, not by any other man, but by a woman, shut him down.
mm,
And the only way he could express his sadness was through anger.
mm,
And this is what she made of him. Um, and what he said to us growing as a kid growing up is, I don't cry. I don't cry. I don't cry. You know, but I could tell my story and make someone else cry. You know, and I feel like subconsciously, even as I was cleaving my own way of being my own person, there was a lot of traits that I picked up. That even if you'd be like, just like you did, I'd be like, fuck no. But this is one thing that I probably by my late teen years, especially, going to jail, going to service, doing all the, like I shut a lot of shit down. And luckily, as soon as I got out, I had a kid. Just as quickly as I was, like, shit just got knocked out of me. But I
wow. I
feel
mean,
like,
that's kind of a blessing because I think a lot of men don't get moved by even that,
um,
or at least not to the extent that you were.
I think for me, I don't know. Maybe we could call it a particularly vulnerable state. I don't know, but to me, there was so much going on in the moment when he was born, that you know, happiness, frustration, relief. Like there was just so much in the moment where I was, like I was just like, oh shit, like I'm just crying, and I look around and everyone's crying. So it's like, okay, well, it's just one big crying moment. And he was crying. So,
Of course.
so, like everybody's crying. This is how it is. But I feel like it just opened something that was probably on its way to closing, you know, and um it didn't stop my
Mm,
dad from being a type of force that was with me at all times, you know, where I feel like I defined my moments of when I would express it, and other times when I would you know, uh, just move forward, and I feel like it's odd because as I'm doing a little self-examination while we're speaking this, like I also feel like some of that comes from the feminine and not just the men. A lot of
well,
that
right.
comes from the interpretation of how we should be, like and maybe in a sense of what they need in a moment, where they may need, someone to hold it down, or I don't know, but I feel like a lot of that self-control didn't come from the things that we as men were passing on to our nephews, sons, and little cousins, and all of that. Like we were showing them how to stack and how to move around, and how not to get caught up. um but a lot of that emotional stuff, it came from either direct words or through observance, of how you may perceive the women in your life want you to be.
And that's what I mean, that's my next question, because you said that he was kind of something of a beast, pardon my phrasing, um, because his mother taught him to be that way. And when you said that, I wrote down women in the patriarchy, because it's not just affecting men. There are probably as many, if not more, women out there who are perpetuating, that disease. I don't know what else to call it, that inability to really feel and express our authentic selves, um, than anybody. Like, and I think it's really important that we understand that, especially because I'm always talking about perhaps it is the women's time to lead. And a lot of men automatically think that I'm on some feminist,
Mm,
um, you know, we don't need men type of shit. And those people who can say that, in my opinion, are men that just happen to have different genitalia. So
mm,
no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
mhm.
real, heart-centered, loving women who love men as much as they love other women and themselves, but also have a healthier connection to their emotions and
Yeah,
their heart, which I think is
yeah,
really important in the leadership as we go forward.
yeah. I believe that, like, we're moving into a world of balance right now. So we don't want to go from one extreme to the other, but we definitely need to divvy it up and realize the importance of both so that we can, work together right now. And the only way for that to happen is for more women to step into more leadership roles, and and to battle this regime, because we won't ever know what it's like unless we have it like that.
Right,
We don't know. Not this age. This age was patriarchal age. Before, when we had matriarchal ages, yes, but it was the other way around. We don't want one way or the other. Right now, we're moving into, this. We've talked about this golden age that's happening, and this is balance, and we gotta, not only see each other as mirrors and work, but also, like, impart some of this the skill, like your skill set
right,
ain't no different from mine. To be true, we got gut feelings. That's what they call it for men. It's a gut feeling, but then with a female, it's intuition. Like, we divide all of these things, but we have all of the same stuff.
right,
Our souls have they don't know any difference. The soul is
right,
androgynous,
right.
and this is what we are. So, we can't attribute. We've been made like this.
Mm,
And now that we've made like this, we want to call it one label or another, or different things. And this is why you're getting resistance as well, because just as much as women have been trained to be a certain way, so now, this force that's going, it's also the men who have been raised around that, and also have, in their own way, tried or worked their way to it's either you roll with it and respect it, or you rebel against it. Either way
right,
it goes, both are going to lead back to one another.
right,
So
right,
it's definitely not one side. And I say it all the time, that you can look at the most powerful man that there is, that's in the face, that this is the man. He's laying next to a woman, and that woman is what's telling him, because he's gonna listen to her.
yeah,
He may not listen to no motherfucker out there, but he listens to her. And
right,
she knows that. She knows
right,
that, because she's smart, and she knows what's up. So,
right.
man, it's an outer facade. It's an outer facade, and we're riding that shit
That's
into the
deep.
ground, you know.
Wait,
But
I want to make sure I got this right. Did you say man is an outer facade?
the man, the patriarchy that we so attribute this fuckery to,
Right, right,
everyone. We all know our mama. We love our mamas. We love our women. We love, nah. It's just like what it is. You got light and dark. You got, so right, it's in the shadows, but that don't make it any less powerful.
Right.
That's where the unknown and the shadows is the most powerful. So
Right.
we're looking at what's in the light and what's in the limelight, and we're saying this is the fucking problem. But it's not.
Mm.
It's not. It's because all of this needs to be brought to the light. All of this needs to be brought up.
It's
You know,
like a collective spiritual work or what not spiritual work, a shadow work.
shadow. Exactly that.
Dope. Shout
Exactly.
out to the One Love Below. Thank you so much for coming through. That's Denver fam in the place to be. I don't think I've said Ronzi's name. Shout out to Ronzi in it for the
We
fashion in the place to be. I'm always grateful when you show up in the place to be, Queen. Um,
welcome, people. Welcome. And thank you.
yes, 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 yes. But word. And I think in the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about, the swing perhaps into the age of Aquarius. And maybe we weren't talking about it in that way, but that's how I characterized it. And I came up, you know, um, oh, the dark ages, like
Mm,
people talking about, this being the dark ages or things of that nature when actually it's the upswing. And I was watching an astrologer and I had never heard this before, like within this year maybe, but certainly no later than October of last year. I was listening to this astrologer who talks about like consciousness being a cycle, how we reach kind of these heights of spiritual awareness, and once we reach the height, something happens and we kind of start dumbing it down. And we get to where we were, at the height
mm,
of this patriarchy or whatever. And then we start getting smart again, that the consciousness starts to grow and we become more spiritually astute and aware again. And I definitely, we're there, we are at the beginning of that upslope, and I was watching this channeler, and I'm just a fan of one liners, probably from hip hop in general, but just life, I love one liners. But she said that the paranormal is becoming the new normal.
mm.
And that to me is just saying all the things in a sentence. And maybe people don't understand it or don't get it or whatever. And thank you, Bruce Willis, for the biddies. Thank you for the bits. But yeah, the paranormal is becoming the new normal. Like we all have some kind of spiritual guide or support,
Mm.
and I think that this is an important time that we start learning how to communicate with those beings if we don't already know how. And I saw you kind of look, I'm not sure if that's your right or left because these things are confusing, but you look
Left,
somewhere. What came up for
right,
you when I said that?
left, right, left,
Okay.
right. Yeah. Um. No, I agree. Um. As someone of, as I don't know how, as someone who knows what this is, I guess. Um. I see the many ways that it can go for the individuals that that are at the point where they're ready to do it. It's definitely a peeling away of perception. Everything is consciousness. That's
Mm,
all there is.
that's
That's
all
all there
there is.
is consciousness. And it's even though it's immeasurable, we can break it down. You know, we can break it down. So we got math, but we can break it down, and we can get as close as we can get to something that is unfathomable. And this is why we have ratios that continue, phi and psi ratios, the golden mean ratios that continue on because it's immeasurable. But the rest of it we can kind of break down into these prisms and geometric shapes, and but all it is consciousness, and is just being explained in these many different ways, whether you want to pick up the emerald tablets or the Bible. you know it's explaining the same thing. The Bible does it in stories and metaphors. It's but it's the more you read it and get the taglines, the more you reach a point of connecting with your soul and
Right.
eventually your higher self. When
Right.
you get that higher self, then everything becomes one, and you're sitting at, that fourth dimensional becomes fifth dimensional because now you see I and I, and it's a whole different wave, you know.
Right.
And
Right.
this what we're moving into. But every soul that's here is ready, even though they don't know it. But or they wouldn't be here. They're
Right.
giving their contributions, and they shake if they need to because they reset button. But it's going down. You spoke of dark ages, and we have a wobble. The Earth's wobble is a 26,000 year journey. And that wobble coincides with the galaxy and the universe itself. Galaxy moving to the furthest reaches of that spiral that is the universe, and making its way back to the photon bands, the light. So this journey sends us off into what we call the dark ages because we get as far away from ourselves. We leave clues and shit. We're still trying to figure it out. We got pyramids all over the place, and we got these monuments and things that were built when we were awakened, and to leave us clues and energy portals, and there's so much that's here to help us throughout this journey, but from our human perspective, a pretty lengthy one. It's a blip for consciousness. It's just as much as a breathing in and breathing out, but we sitting as these little cells experiencing it, so it looks monumental, but we definitely just we are moving back. We've been moving out of the dark ages for a long time. We've been waking up for a long time, and now we're getting to that point, where it's about to happen. I feel like we still got thousands of years, but shit, it happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure we do have thousands of years. There's always something to learn, some way to grow, but I also think that, we're going to experience pretty profound progress. I think, you
I agree.
know,
I agree.
larger numbers than ever recorded, in anything that we have the ability to read. Um, Larger numbers of people than ever recorded are on the path to creating their heaven on earth. I believe that many people
That's it.
who are struggling, even right now in this moment, anybody who has found their way to this strange little corner of the internet, no matter how hard things feel right now, the fact that you are taking some time out to listen to this kind of rhetoric, suggests to me, makes me very optimistic that you
Yeah.
are on the path to your
Yes.
best life,
Yes.
because
Most
you're not
definitely.
settling for what is being fed to the masses.
hmm And you definitely know that it's you. You definitely know that it's you. And somewhere or another, there's some inkling that this it's you, and you got to take accountability and responsibility, and make the choice. Make the choice to make you to create. That's what creation is. It happens through you, so you got to direct it.
You gotta direct it. I
Yeah.
love that. I'm gonna talk about Octavia Butler in a second, but first I want to ask Wise Up what she's laughing about, if unless it's probably because I said this weird little corner of the interview, I mean of the internet. And I want to back up a little bit to something that Bruce Willis said, even though I feel like we're kind of beyond that. I don't want to rush past it. Bruce Willis said that the women in his family are hard edged, and so I want to ask him. I'm not sure if he's still here, but if you are still here, Bruce Willis, I would love to know how you feel dealing with those hard edged or being brought up by those hard edged women affected you. You good over there?
Yeah, that was a strange sound. I'm the only one home, so I'm just trying to figure out what that was. But if I need to get up, I'll feel it. No worries.
Okay.
Ah, the
Yes.
reminder.
So
It is
Octavia
a
Butler,
yeah.
because you were talking about shaping the consciousness that is flowing through us to create what we want. So Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. And the reason I'm bringing that up now is because in that book, this young girl, Lauren Olamina, submits the idea that God is change. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but pretty much everything else she says, I do agree with. And what she says is that we are here to shape God, and we are here to create our existence. Like we can be slaves to God, but that's a choice because we're supposed to be in co-creation with God, to manifest the lives that we desire or our heavens on earth. Um, I'm going to take a second. I'm glad you're pondering it. Bruce Willis says, the way I came up felt normal to me. But when I make comparisons with other people, I feel like there was some warmth missing,
I was
which is
thinking he
deep.
was going to say something to that effect when you asked the question if he was there to respond, because I can relate to you, brother. It's the same. I grew up around some pretty strong women, some strong women. My grandmother used to call herself mafiosa, and I didn't learn it till she passed away in 2019 that she wasn't bullshit. Like, like she was connected. Like she was all this shit. And I always thought she was just saying, no, man, I understand, and the way that they are and the way that they bring you up is intense and it's strong. Um, and it's normal until you get in different circles and start to meet partners and things and realize that it ain't always this, it ain't always like that. Yeah, I got you, brother.
Right. Let me see. We used to have to leave gatherings when I was a kid because my grandmother had staged fights.
That's true.
Oh, like hard. I thought he meant like was not giving him enough hugs in the day. I
No,
didn't know that
no,
he
no. I
meant.
know exactly what he's talking about. I'm talking brethren. I'm telling you, I know, man. My great grandmother had a 32 pearl handle. Like nobody fucked with her on the block. This lady was 5'2", and nobody messed with this woman on the block. Hey, Miss Neva. And I'm a little kid, like, what? Why is it, man? Yeah, look, I got you, brother. I got you. I got you. I understand. But I
That's
wouldn't have it any other way to this
I
day. I
mean,
swear, I'm so glad I was raised by those ladies.
well, I mean,
Really
and I
good.
definitely think that all of us, like, we're probably trying to unlearn, every one of us here is probably trying to unlearn some aspect of the way that we operate in the world. And that's fine. But I think that most of us, if we're not already there, will definitely get to a point where we can look back at all of the worst shit that ever happened to us and be grateful for it. Because if it wasn't for those things, we wouldn't be who we are, and we are all worthy of love, period, but especially from ourselves.
Mhm.
Like that is the work, that self-love and that self-compassion. I'm going to back up a little bit. Sabia Spills says that she grew up around strong women as well. And, I feel like we all did, but I'm compelled to ask Sabia, um, what does that mean to you? And how do you think it affected you? Because I think there's two ways, at least, to look at this idea of strong women, because a lot of times I feel like it meant that they were hurting and they kept going anyway. That
Mm,
they didn't take care of themselves, that they
no.
didn't, rest, that their own pain and suffering
Mm,
was an afterthought at best.
that's a different type of strength, but I wasn't raised around that. Any woman in my life, growing up, if she'd have felt anything like that, she'd have put her food to the curb first. She ain't gonna go through that shit. She'll put her own mama out, put everybody out. Every woman in my life growing up didn't take no shit at all. And we didn't even know where the shit came from because there was no shit, but they was ready to deal with it to the point where sometimes they created it. But no, strong on that level, like just group rooted, had their boundaries, but also had their DJ Funk Lord, yeah, had their heart, very strong, passionate women, but they just had their outlook, their way that they moved, and it was some shit to be reckoned with, like it
Mm,
was, and I never saw these women as b- damaged,
mm,
hurt women. Maybe who they came from before them were like that, but these are like my great grandparents, my great grandmother, my grandmother, right around that age. My great grandmother was born in 1908, and native of she's indigenous and black. So you're talking about people who were born right out of people who were slaves and massacred, and one way or another. So I feel like that was just a strength to go forward into, whether it be a woman or a man. It wasn't it wasn't about being that way to be a strong woman. They were just strong people, you know.
right. Right. And this is definitely a divergence, we being hella random right now. But you mentioned, being brought up amongst and by people who came out of slavery,
Mm,
and I woke up the other day after the first day, or no, before that first like hemi sync meditation that I was telling you
mhm,
about,
mhm,
before I ever did it. I woke up that morning and I couldn't really remember the dream, but I literally spoke out loud, Araminta. And it took me a little bit to realize that that was the given name of Harriet Tubman.
oh,
And I was just like, whoa. Like I mean, I probably heard it once when I saw the movie. Like I hadn't studied her like that. I didn't know um that was her name.
mm,
So it's kind of
mhm.
bugging me out that I woke up speaking that. And I'm just wondering if what are your thoughts on, that coming out first thing when a person wakes up? Not to say that you're a dream interpreter, but I appreciate your intuition, and I'm just wondering, what comes up for you.
So I feel like our dreams, just like everyone, pretty much it's our interpretations of what's going on within us. Period. The things that we're working on are all being in some way put out through our dreams. But I feel like not only is it that, but in that moment we're tapped into, we're consciously letting go, and we're in this world where we're tapped into everything, and at that point we're tapped into the Akashic records, we're tapped into everything in that
Mm,
moment. So this is why, like we can create so much and pull so much. We get answers in our dreams, because we've shut down the facility that fights against it.
mm,
So it just as easily as it could be something that you were interpreting for your own work, it could be something that's coming through, which is still for your own work, but you could definitely speak through you in that moment. You're way more receptive in those theta waves,
deep, deep,
you know.
deep, deep. Thank you. I'm gonna back up. Sabia says, I think they were placed in masculine positions in order to survive. And I'm assuming she's talking about the strong women in
Yeah.
her life.
Mhm.
So naturally, I am completely out of balance as a young child and as a woman. I had to transmute loads of energy to balance out. Ashe.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that you
Mhm.
use had, because I would imagine that you feel like you are coming into your own, into a place of wholeness and authenticity and expression, which is
Mhm.
beautiful. Shout out,
That's
congratulations
like the
is what I have to
feminine.
say to
That's like the feminine existence of what we were talking about earlier. Is like being a man and not being able to fully express themselves and fully be everything that they are because they've got this hardness that comes through it. It can come to the same thing can happen to a young woman that's raised around women that are that are have a really strong institution. It doesn't. This is my whole point in any of this is always is it comes from both sides, and we can never put it on this, that, or the other because it's all the same to the soul. So it's
Right.
coming through both sides. And once we get to that point where we see that it's coming from both sides and we're not like being pro man, anti man, or pro woman or anti woman, because those are outer representations of something that the soul doesn't even understand. This is why we got kids right now that don't know how to identify because they are
Mm,
way more connected to their soul and what's going on than all of this shit that's going on out here. So they're rebelling, and we're ignorant because we don't know. Oh shit! And so we're trying to fix it, and we're just making it fucking worse. But some things got to get worse before it gets better. But it's all what's happening right now. We're getting in touch with our souls, and the more that we do that, the roles will reverse, the roles will switch, the roles will become so much alike. There's so many different things that we'll be able to accomplish if we get past the fact that it's male and female, it's divine masculine, divine feminine, but those are aspects. It's not a real person. We personify it, but we really don't. We can
right.
look. So it's just once we get past that illusion completely, we'll be able to work better together. And
I love
this is
that. And I
what we
love that
really
you
need.
said that a lot of these youth are more identified with the soul. And that is why they have a harder time, choosing or landing in some sort of a definition of their gender. I've never heard anybody say it in that way. I've always known, and actually, I just found out I got nominated for an award, for listening, to the kids instead of telling the kids what it is. And that's because, in my opinion, any the younger you are and the more you believe in yourself and have been allowed to be authentic, the smarter you are. And the more you're aware of where it is we as humanity are headed. So in my opinion, we want to, instead of trying to tell these kids what it is, like we want to protect them and we want to guide them to a certain extent, but mostly we want to listen and learn from them because they're smarter, at least as far as when we talk about the life, where we're going,
Yeah.
because so many of us are stuck in a past that's never coming back. We're not, there is no going back to normal.
No, but
It is time for us to
these are the
create
ones that are
something new.
fucking it up because
Right.
they are trying to listen to the kids, but they don't understand. So they're like, "Hey, go get titties then," and it's like, "We support you, we love you, and we support you," and it's like they don't understand what's happening. So the support that they're giving is in enabling even more imbalance. But it's because
Mm,
they're coming from a place of imbalance themselves. They're trying and they have, this is a hard subject. I have friends that are going through this, with kids, and I can only say what I can, you know.
yeah, no, there's definitely some real inside jokes going on in the chat. I'm trying not to distract you with them, but
It's no, please throw those out. Please, please.
Um, yeah. So shout out to Vanna for the fashion in the place to be. If you'll look closely at her picture, you'll see that she appears to have plastic skin, and that
I
that's
thought it
that's
was a
really
doll.
Vanna.
Really? I thought it was a doll, or like an AI interpret like doll interpretation or something
Yes, yes,
like the Barbie setting.
she is a very close friend of Ronzi in it for the fashion, and she is known to sit next to the camera holding various wigs for Ronzi. So shout
Big
out
ups,
to
man.
Vanna
Big
for the
ups. Big
fashion
ups.
in the place to be. We love you.
Big ups.
She's a mannequin, blessings king. DJ Funklore says, Zen, much respect to the foundation you put down for the culture. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Um, and that kind of compels me. I feel like there's a lot more that we could say on the spiritual tip, but it doesn't have to always be all about that.
It is regardless.
Well, yeah, yeah, it is. But you can also kind of beat a dead horse. With that stuff when really we just need to experience it and believe in ourselves and grow in our ability to, like you said, shape this existence because we can all have everything that we want.
Yeah, it's
maybe
what we're here
even
to
if
do.
it, maybe even if it is hurting someone else, but certainly if it's not hurting anyone else, it's yours to be had. And
Right.
if you don't already have it, there's just a certain amount of work that needs to be done to reprogram yourself to understand that you are worthy of and deserving, of
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
The bottom
Yes.
line is that we are, and it took me a long time to be able to say this, but we are gods.
Yes.
I'm happy to use the lowercase g, because I'm not the God of your
Or we can just
existence.
be
You're not the
singular.
God of my existence, but we are all the God
Yeah.
of our own existence. And the
Yeah.
sooner we own that and begin to use it to our advantage, the better. Thank you, Wise Up. But to get back to DJ Funklore, I feel like we might as well start talking about some of your history, in the music industry and how you came to be who you are. One question that I wrote that I never asked, it was funny
Really.
when it came to me in all of
Really.
these years is, have you always been a writer?
Um. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I don't think
Wow.
I paid attention to it much because I'm also an artist. I draw, and I think as a child I was more into music and playing instruments and drawing. Um, and whenever I had assignments or things like that, I would write stuff, and teachers would put them up, or would always do something, and but I didn't pay attention to it until I was probably in high school.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, like I can actually write poetry,
And
man. Poetry. I had a poetry in English.
oh,
And
shout out to the Solutionist Kings in the place to be. So good to see
big
you.
up.
I'm really excited to be partnering with the Solutionist Kings and helping to bring some healing and some financial awareness and growth to men. But that's kind of still in the works, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. But thank you, Solutionist Kings, for coming through. Bruce Willis is saying, "I copped Here to Stay. Come on and love and release." Love that ish.
Wow.
Um,
Thanks. Here to
yeah, so
stay. Wow, man. Here to stay is like, oh man, that was like 97. I think we recorded that song. That's a wow. That's a certified classic right there. That's classic Visionaries, man.
wow.
That's when we were all pumped up and full of angst and just wanted to spit some shit. Man, in London, that's a good cop right there. We've been there a couple of times. Great shows both times we were there. But yeah,
Dope.
man, that's amazing.
And that was another
Absolutely.
one of my questions too, because we talked about it a little bit in our last conversation that is still yet to be edited. I'm not going to inundate you with questions when you haven't really finished answering the other one, but something to kind of just put in the back of your mind is that transition, because you talked for the first time to me anyway about your transition and how your writing changed based upon the experiences and
Um,
things that you are going through in your life. But I'm going to back up to you becoming aware of your talents. It sounds like that's what you're saying. You became aware and clear that you had talent as a writer in high school. Is that true? Is that fair?
True, true, true. I think, like coming up, I was just always, I mean, I wanted to be, my dad was a screenwriter, so I wanted to be, involved in entertainment some sort of way, actor, whatever. And I did commercials and shit like that. And I drew, but, I wasn't really like, I want to be I was never just driven, so I was just kind of bouncing around and doing things. And a lot of things that I discovered was because I was in school. Like took I was in band and orchestra all the way up until I was in eighth grade, and then when I got to high school, I
Mm.
realized the band was not something I wanted to be involved in. So I was like, peace out.
Why? Because
Not
they
my
were
band.
nerds. What? Tell me
They
the
were
truth.
not my kind of people. They just weren't my kind of people. No, I had nerd friends. I had nerd geek. I had friends all across the board. When I was in high school, I could walk all the way to around the high school, hang out with the cholos, crips. Like no, I was some whole other shit. It was just a collection of oddities that I myself just couldn't relate to,
Mm,
and I ended up playing sports. So like it was something that balanced me out, I guess, because I played Pop Warner and all that shit on my own, but then I never played in school, and then I played, so it was a different kind of balance.
that's
But
weird.
I
That's
feel
that's
like
a strange one. To go play Pop Warner and not play in school. That's
I
really
never
interesting.
played in school at all because I was always into like drama and like all this other shit. And then when I got to high school, I didn't go to a magnet school. I ended up going to a general education school, so they didn't have all of these types of electives. They had drama, but like band wasn't like orchestra or shit where they put plays and other. It was like the band that followed around and played for the football team. And I was like, nah, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So I shifted, but I feel like from that, I still got like I in drama, at drama where I had to write my own like monologues, and like I had all of these things when I was in high school that indirectly just showed me that I can write, and the approval of my teachers. Like
Mm.
I wrote a poem on life, like and my English teacher like loved it so much that she read it to the class, and she didn't tell the class who wrote it. She just said she wanted to read a poem to it, and she read it, and the class was like, oh, they had these crazy reactions, and at the time I was kind of just put my head down, and she was just like, that was, that was written by it, and it's like, wow, and just to get things like that, even though there was a little bit of embarrassment and uncomfortability with it and things like it in the back of me encouraged me to do
It
more.
fortified you.
And if it wasn't for freestyling in high school, I probably would never be the lyricist that I am. I just did it for fun when I was in high school with people who were really trying to write and trying to be in their own little rap groups and shit. And I would just jump in circles and just freestyle and say, yeah, like, man. Anyway, and man, look, like the last thing that I thought I would do is the thing that I do for a living, and I love that shit. I
Right, right,
love
right,
it.
right.
I love it. And
I think you already answered this, but Bruce Willis said, "Did you ever make it over here?" And then DJ Funklore says, "Then you hit at Jazz Cafe in London."
yes, yes, both of those answers to both of those are yes. Um, we rocked there, but also our RJD2 was playing there one time, and man, it was so packed that everybody was outside. Yeah, yeah, we've done some London time. For sure. For sure. The first time I was not prepared, I gave them $100 and they gave me 47 pounds. And I was like, what? Then everything that was $5 was 5 pounds. And I was like, well, that's like $10. You gave me half my money and I'm paying double? Like, oh, no. But the next time I was prepared, I was prepared. I had a beautiful time. Don't go to London without some bread.
Right. I went to London. The only time that I've ever been in London was during a Mad Cow. And that's
Oh,
so we were eating at McDonald's and all they had was the chicken sandwiches, but they were like the best chicken sandwiches I ever had. It's like people don't understand how bad the food is in the United States. I was like, what? This is delicious. You know? Anyway, shout out to London.
yeah, big
Definitely
ups,
get your
London.
paper
Big
up.
ups, big ups.
I'm gonna
Glad to
see
hear
if
y'all still pumping it and still following. We would love to get back out there again.
yes, fish and chips definitely slaps.
It does.
Oh,
It
shout
does.
out
It
to
does.
Toast McFarland in the place to be.
Big up,
Shout out to
so.
Toast McFarland, Bright Eye Sunflower. Thank you so much, Queen, for coming through. Of course, everybody follow everybody. I'm pretty sure absolutely everybody in this chat is a streamer. So get it in. Shout out to the One Love Below. I'm not sure if she's still here. She's not a streamer, but at least not yet, but one of these days. But let's get back to this comment that Wise Up had. This is a little late because I'm still driving, but I just want to praise the way the trans folk topic was handled with such grace and expansiveness, regardless of our various grasps as thoughts on the subject. Ashe. Ashe. And like I said, I was grateful. Like I definitely am on some to each his own, and again, I do believe that these youth have a lot to teach us if we'll let them. I really have literally, um not only do I work with, but I'm a part of the Satya Yoga Cooperative, which is a POC yoga co-op, and a lot of the folks in there are also LGBTQ, and so I feel like I'm fairly well educated, around these topics, but I've never heard anybody say, that they're just more connected to their spirit than we are, and that's why they don't fit the molds that we have all fit into at some point. So I too want to just go ahead and give thanks and gratitude, for you being here and for, making, in my opinion, some things clear that were not clear before.
We identify so much with this, you know, and even learning to get to where we're not dealing with this. We're dealing with this,
Right.
and someone that's come here at a time when all of that wasn't put into them has a different interpretation.
I heard that.
Um, but because there's so much already here to try to fit into, I
Mm.
don't, I don't, I don't fit any of that. I am heterosexual male, but from me knowing that straight off the cuff, I didn't have to shit. I didn't have to question when I was in my single digits. I was 5 and 6, 7, looking at women like, oh, that's what I like. I already knew that shit, you know. So, but I grew up in LA. I grew up around so much diversity. My dad was, like I said, my dad was a screenwriter. Me and my brothers, sisters, we were around, our Uncle Mike, who was flamboyantly gay. And, you know,
It
just
was
Uncle
all
Mike.
love.
He's just Uncle Mike. We don't need to hear the intricacies of your life, bro. But, he's just Uncle Mike.
Yeah.
And, I'm another thing for me to be thankful for growing up, because, when I started to wake up myself and start to see what all of this is. That was something that I never had to grapple with.
Oops.
I was just
Right.
like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like this is soul level stuff that's going on at work, and this is why we have it in our DNA and in nature, where we got so many ways, to the point of there's asexuality as well, where there's they're not attracted to anything. They just don't.
Yeah.
And
Word.
it's there.
I
We
think
are a spectrum. We are a
exactly, and
spectrum.
that's exactly what I was just thinking. I think in all things where we would prefer, or maybe I shouldn't use the word we, but where prior times would prefer to create some sort of a binary model, it just was never true. There's always an infinite number of points between any 2 points, an infinite number, and so definitely, and I think that's why it's really so important that, like you said way early in the stream, that really heaven on earth is just about being the most authentic version of yourself, which is just way easier said than done, because we learn so much
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that makes us not appreciate ourselves enough to do and be authentic in that way.
I
um
it's if you're on a mountain somewhere, you can go up to a silent retreat and spend 30 days. You can probably work it out better, but at the same time, you're gonna have to enter at some point. You're gonna have to enter the mass vibration, and that
mm,
mass vibration has everything. We're even, it's more and more people, but the majority are not there yet, or the
what,
world wouldn't be reflective of what it is.
right,
So
right. And you
it's
saying it in that way, this is all I do. I'm definitely like the unconscious mind, how to reprogram it, how to change it, blah 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 blah. But it's really interesting to hear you talk about that everything exists. And it really just, I saw when you said that, I saw like a kaleidoscope, and ultimately we are taking all of these options and channeling them through ourselves to create, prayerfully, a beautiful, bright, and shiny, authentic, unique, and powerful expression.
hmm
It's like we get to look at all of these options and, to a certain extent, choose. I don't know. I just really have this huge visual of like a kaleidoscope and a prism in my mind, which is kind of distracting, but
but you're just that's the hologram that is.
that is the
It's,
hologram that is,
it's,
like, this
and
is a hologram.
we're walking around in it. We're living it, but we're also the creators of it. So there's a little paradoxical truth to it, but the more the God, you find God in the paradox,
Right.
you know, and the more you understand and come to grips with paradoxical things, the more you'll just get it. You'll just get
Yeah.
it. And the more you just get it, the more you can just live it. Like there's so many different ways, like she said earlier, there's so many different ways to get there. There's so many different ways and practices, but it's all just, it's like reading words, doing the practice. Like muscles have memory, soul has memory. You already know this. So what
Yeah.
you're doing is you're just taking the steps to get there. You want to drive to the
We're
store, you got to get
remembering.
in
I
your
like to
car
say
and
we're
drive to the
remembering.
store. Exactly. It's just like we've done this before so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
So
Many, many, many times. None of us
yeah,
this is not our first time on this
yeah,
planet.
it's not our first rodeo. We know
This
this.
is
We know this. We just
right.
get in our way.
This is another super abrupt left turn, but I'm backing
Big
up to
ups to
Bruce
the
Willis's
comments.
comment.
I do want. I've been reading some of the comments, so Big ups to y'all. I've been reading the love at the same time. It's like
Yeah.
so I was like I'll find a moment. But yeah, big ups. Thank you.
On the Valentine's um set, nothing new under the sun. Ashe. Ashe.
See?
Ashe. And you
Exactly.
know what comes up for me first when you say that, Ronzi, is why it is important to write down and or create our inspirations when we receive them. Because in my opinion, a lot of times when we receive an inspiration, that wave of information has been sent out to the world. And you hear so many times people talking about that was mine or I had that idea. Sometimes people do still, but I think, probably as often we just got the same inspiration at the same time and that person acted before you did. So to me that is kind of, a push, a gentle nudge, that when you are inspired to create a thing, go ahead and create that thing before somebody else does, because you probably are not the only one who had that
No,
thought and that
no. There's so
inspiration.
many people being inspired by the same thing, but humans are humans, and most will just take it as as I have an idea, and there's very few that'll run with it. This is why we have such a imbalance in owners and consumers in this world.
That's at this point, but I definitely feel like that is not going to persist.
Nah,
Um,
nah, nah. Well, because there's too much going on. Like it's shaking the rubble. It's shaking. Then in Babylon gone 5. We know this. We already know this, and we're watching it, but we're also caught up in it. I can't go anywhere. I can't go sit somewhere without having some sort of conversation about you know what's going on. So either you're sitting eating the popcorn and watching it, or you're actively involved in it and you're taking your ballot and you're doing your thing. But it's gotta break. It's gotta break before something
we
else
can
can.
fully create something new. It's like
Exactly.
you have to get rid of the old,
Exactly.
you have to clear out
So it's a
that old
circus.
debris.
Exactly. So it's become a circus right now. It's a circus.
It is a
And I'm just
circus.
like, oh man. It's entertaining. It's
I
entertaining. We
mean,
got
I
entertaining
mean it,
players, and,
right.
and that's what keeps it entertaining. Because if it wasn't those players, I probably wouldn't even I wouldn't even turn an ear to it. So it's happening. It's
It's
happening. And
definitely
we
happening.
know it's happening. And
Right.
some of it is sad. And
And
but
that's what I was going to say. I don't know how entertaining it is. I'm glad to be removed from it, is how I feel about it. Because there is a lot of sad, terrible, terrible things going on, but how I had to learn to not get caught up in the emotion of that, is that we all kind of, in my opinion, I don't want to argue about it, but in my opinion, we all came here with a purpose
mm,
and
mm,
signed, to a certain extent, signed these contracts of what we
mhm,
were going to go through and experience,
mhm,
and that is just all a part of the lesson. Like I was listening to this one channeler, and I've always thought of life as a school, and a place to learn and grow and do the best that you can. But I heard a channeler say that not only is planet Earth, a soul school, but it is the hardest soul school in the cosmos.
mm,
Like we come here to do some PhD level learning and growing,
mm.
on a soul level. So it's interesting stuff to contemplate, in my opinion.
I do believe that in order to grow, we need to learn. And this is this rock we call Earth is turning into a star.
Mm.
So this
So
Earth is going to continue.
the frequencies are raising, are growing, which in my opinion is part of the reason why we're tired, and why hustling, even though it was never really the move, is just becoming almost impossible to do because we literally don't have the energy for it. Like our forms, this evolution that we're going through
Yeah,
is as much physical as spiritual and mental, and so we need energy to
yeah.
rest and heal and ultimately
Process.
transform.
Yeah, it's process. We got a lot. It's so much like light right now. Like we are, not to get all astrological and shit, but we are in the photon band right now. So we are surrounded, our galaxy is surrounded by light. So, it's kind of like the curtains are being pulled.
Mm.
So, and you gotta look at it. Curtains being pulled and your face is being held in place. You can't, your eyes held open, like you can't, you have to
You can't not
do it.
see.
Yeah, because it's what's needed. And this is why people shake, this is why people shake out, they're not leaving. They're just becoming part of the next, the
The
next
next wave,
vibration,
they'll be back.
which now the pain of this, whatever is going, but it's still you doing the work no matter what.
Right.
We caught up in this and we agreed to be. So, might as well do it. It's way easier said than done. But yeah,
Right.
I've been doing this. I've been doing it. I mean, I've been doing it all my life, but consciously for like 30 years. And I've been through the whole realization to just like, oh my God, I know I hate this. I, I don't want to do this. Like
you know,
I don't care. I'm sorry, middle finger.
and
And
sometimes I
then
do, to me, that's 2 days. One day I'm like, oh, and then the next day it's like, fuck, this shit is
yeah,
exhausting. Can I just catch a break?
9-year-old king, yes, yes. No, they get it together though. They get it together though. Whether it's a son or a daughter, my kids when they were that age were just like a lot, a lot because it's a lot to process. It's a lot going on, and think about. I can just think about when I was 9. I didn't have nearly as much to absorb, to look at, and to compute and make sense of. To be like, oh, okay, this is how we do shit. Now there's so much, and shit, it's accessible on a phone or like there's just so much going on that and this is stuff that they're gonna know to a whole other level when they get into 20. Look, man, yeah, it's a train wreck.
And I
This is
kind of have a
there.
question for DJ Funklore about like to what level and to what extent do you allow your kids to interact with the internet and things of that nature,
Mm,
um because I think that is important. Let's see. I'm threading the line with him between truth and his innocence and youth. We only speak truth to each other, so I feel like I'm withholding.
mm. Okay, well, like withholding from here, or withholding from your connection with your child is my
Yeah, I mean
question.
that's a good question because I don't want to just be brutal on Ani, but that's another thing that I always do when I'm with the youth is tell the truth. Tell the whole truth. I don't
Yeah, nothing
I
but.
don't sugarcoat anything. I don't, you know, I mean, I don't know. I think that they're smarter than they get credit for, and
Yeah,
we
we
do
were.
them a disservice to not tell them the whole truth. Like, yeah, I mean, I get it. And the whole idea, like, the idea that you might be able to ruin the innocence of your own child
Mm.
is concerning, you know. So I'm assuming that that's a little bit about what he's talking about. And he says the reality of Babylon's shit system.
Right. Gotcha. Gotcha. Man, the thing is at 9 years old. So my oldest daughter, who's like 30 now with four children of her own, when she was like 9 or 10, we were watching the I can't remember that movie with Sean Ashton but it was an old school movie, sports movie, or was it? Maybe it wasn't Sean Ashton, but I know it had Denzel Washington in it. But he was like a coach or some much shit, and it was back in the 50s, 60s, some shit. So the whole story was about him overcoming the prejudice and being this coach, being this great coach for these kids and whatever have you. But my daughter, who's watching the movie with us, asked, like, she was like, why are they treating him like that? And in the moment she asked me, I didn't want to answer the question
Mm,
because I was like, I don't even want to tell you about it. But I did anyway. And
mm.
for the next 3 or 4 years, she was reading about civil rights and like she dove off into this whole world of just figuring things out and having a moment of being fiery about that shit to finding her peace with it, and everything. So, you know,
Yeah, I
it,
love
it
that. I love that story. That is just the perfect story because that's how it is. I think with anything, you know, at first, when we are faced with some new bit of information, you know, it can be really scary. But I think that that fear can drive us to educate ourselves to the point that that fear turns into curiosity. Like, I left corporate in 2008, and part of what allowed me, what gave me the courage to walk away from that money was getting the download that the shit is probably going to hit the fan and money ain't going to save you. You need people. You need to click up, you know, so you need to get your ass out of that cubicle and, you know, and go meet some people who know how to grow some vegetables and tote some guns, you know, and stuff like that. And it was scary, you know, but uh-oh, suddenly I can probably get rid of that if
Can
I go
you
get
hear
some
the music?
headphones.
Can you hear that? You can hear the music?
um,
No, that's me. No,
Tom,
but
okay, you're back.
so what
Okay,
happened?
I don't know if you started playing music, it must have did something. Were you playing music?
I'm sorry.
Don't be
No,
sorry. I'm new to
no,
this. I'm still new to this, so I
no,
don't
but I
know what.
was tripping off the whole shit because I'm listening to you and I was like, what the hell is she? Is she talking about me? So I have my Google phone rings on my tablet too,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
getting a phone call, but I was looking at the number and I was like, oh, that's a 866. I was like, that's some whole other something that I don't want to talk to, So I was letting it ring, but then when you started talking about it, like, yeah, I should have just
I-
hit the decline. But when you start talking about it, then I started trying to figure out if you were talking about what. Anyway, sorry about
yeah,
that. Y'all,
it's all good. It is all good. As a soon to be 10-year-old. So
technology.
DJ Funklor says, it ain't that
No,
I'm hiding ish, but if I give him the absolute real, where's the joy?
well, now there's now. All right, so when you go to the movies or you sitting and you watching a flick with somebody and you already saw the flick, you want them to watch the flick. They're gonna ask you questions, so you give them these ambiguous answers that aren't wrong, but at the same time, you want them to watch the flick. So in these instances, you don't tell them the whole movie. You you you, you want them to see and feel the same experience you did when you saw the flick. So you know, if you're the type of person where you want to tell them everything, then you know you ruin it for them, and the way that they experience it is going to be not the same. So you know, in those moments, you can give answers where they're not lying, but you know, I got 3 kids and they're all grown now, but you know, I spent my life, you know, with them as youth, like when they were kids, like telling them sometimes, hey, you figure it out. You know, if I try to explain it to you now, it's not going to make sense. But when you have these experiences, then you'll know. You know, and other times I can tell them straight out, like, you know, that use your mind, use your heart. You know, like there's so many things that you can tell your kids to steer them to make their decisions, but also at the same time, every single one of us, whether you know, you can put someone alone for a while and they'll figure out their own interpretations of right and wrong, you know, and encouraging a child to do what's right, you know, is never wrong,
Right. I
you
mean,
know.
and then what I have to say is, that there is joy because we do know how bad things are, but we're still on here, having these conversations, playing this music, dancing around the house, playing these video games. And so you tell them that, there are these hard situations going on out here, but also let's go to the park. Look at how beautiful that sky is. Look at how many
Mm,
amazing and
I feel
wonderful
you.
things that you can experience for
I like
free.
that.
So, in my opinion, it's just about intentionally being balanced, and never forgetting that while things are and can be hard and tragic, there's always also so much beauty to be
Hmm.
experienced, even in the midst of the pain.
And if
So
he's
it's
a
just
soldier,
another balance.
yeah, if he's a soldier, like you said, you say he's a soldier, then you know that drive, you know, can be, you know, not necessarily directed, but shown ways where that drive can be put to creating, you know, so many so many things, you know,
Right.
so many things. You know, as long as we're creating and as long as we're enjoying things that we create, man, we're happy beings. You know, we've a lot of us have been through enough shit to where we forget that. But you know, that's the simplicity of it, and kids don't know any different until we start telling them that it is. You know, so just encourage that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to back up to DJ's Funk Lord's comment, but I had to go. But I love that. As long as we are creating, we're happy beings. And the reason why that really resonates with me, even though I'm sure somebody out there would want to argue, that at best it's an oversimplification. Like I actually have amended my prayers. I used to say, thank you for helping me to be a loving, faithful, grateful, and disciplined servant. And a few months ago, that changed to thank you for helping me to be a loving, faithful, grateful, and disciplined creator. Because that is what we all are here to do. Different things for sure, but something.
Yeah,
And if we
yeah.
can figure out what that is and honor that urge to create, we will always feel better about whatever else is happening, which I think leads into his comment. The king is listening to KRS-One and Jungle Brothers and spitting lyrics. So exactly. So he's
Mm.
kind of hearing what it is anyway, if that's who he's listening to, you know.
JB, JB. Oh man, I love the JBs, yo. B's on my string. Yeah. No, he's already tapped in if he's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
What I'm gonna
place to
say
be.
is try not to worry too much because it's just praying for what you don't want. And these kids they're smart, like they're really smart. And if they're in a loving environment where they are taught to believe in themselves, it's almost like it's like nearly 1,000% likely that they're gonna create some dope shit. That's it and that's all, you know. He wanted to stop eating beef after hearing it from Chris. And you said he wanted to, like maybe you disagreed, DJ Funklore. Because my son is 24 now, but when he went into the sixth
Mhm.
grade, I homeschooled him. And when somebody finally talked me into letting him come to their school, one of his first assignments was writing a paper on meat processing in the United States. And so he quit eating meat, like, you know, that at 11 or so. So that's 13 years ago. And I told him, I was like, you can be veggie if you want to, but that probably means a lot of beans. I'm not going to be buying that fake meat shit, you know. And he's cool. Like, this dude will literally eat beans, you know, like 4 or 5 times a week and not complain. And, you know, he's a healthy dude. Let's see. Yes, time definitely. Yes. Oh my God. I keep forgetting. Of course, I've known, probably I met One Love Below when I first came out of corporate, which means he was like 8 years old. So, yes, you have not seen him in a long time.
No, I was
Ronzi
talking
says
to
I'm
you.
eating oxtail. Enjoy that oxtail, Ronzi. I
That
definitely
sounds amazing.
don't have no opinions on nobody else's choices as far
I
as.
went through the whole gamut myself, so I definitely don't like. I went from I was a vegan at one point in my life, you know. So and I was serious. It wasn't. It was my choice. I didn't have any views about anyone else and how they. You know, I wasn't preachy about it, but I definitely went through that. You know, to the point where I got past that and was just, like making a lot of fruit, like smoothies and eating fruits and nuts and meditating. I went down the rabbit hole,
Right,
you know. And as
right.
you can see now, as I sip a beer and smoke herb and like you know, now I've gotten to the point where all of these things are things that you give energy to, and as long as you don't give it too much of your energy, then you know you find your own balance and you do what you want. You know, I eat what I like, you know.
Ashe.
And sometimes when my body tells me to eat some shit that I don't like, I eat it then too because I know my body knows what's up in the moment. So I'm like, okay, but yeah, you know, I live a different way, but I had to. I feel like I had to go through that rabbit hole to realize, you know, what it all meant to me anyway, you know. And I charge everything that I put in my body with my own thoughts and feelings about
Right.
it.
Pray over it. Pray over it. It'll
Mhm.
definitely make it better. Raise your vibration so that it's easier to digest. You
Yeah.
know, at minimum, that's what the prayers do. So do it. Um, Word up. Well, I really appreciate you coming through, bro. I'm not gonna draw this out too much longer. I do have kind of two things left on my list that I wanted to talk about and that are related, even though some people might say that they're different. And I'll start with the further one first, which is the importance of being impeccable with our words, you know, and mincing and really being intentional with the things that we say. And the question before that, though, is how do you feel about the classification of underground versus independent? Because someone convinced me to use the word independent, you know, over underground because underground means hidden or not as accepted. And he's
Right.
like, just because I'm not on the mainstream doesn't mean that I don't want to be accepted or well known.
Yeah.
And so don't call
Yeah.
me underground, call me
Yeah.
independent. Like, do you have an opinion on that?
So I feel like I never really had an opinion about it until you just spoke on it right now. But I but I but I do agree with that in the sense that you know, I feel like you know, as independent artists, we've definitely surpassed what would be considered underground. As we heard, you know, as we read the homie that was talking about having our our music over there in London, like, and we talking about we've been over there in London, like we're not underground, like we've been all over the place and we've done stuff, we've been doing this for 30 years. We are not underground, but we're not mainstream. And we're not mainstream because we chose to do it independently and we chose to make our own rules. And we made choices that throughout our careers, set us apart in a sense because we did not, become a part of the mainstream, but we're not underground artists. You can see us in places, and you can Google us and shit. But like, yeah, I get the different, I get the distinction, but I never really thought about it beforehand. I felt, because when people call us underground artists, it's not like I get offended by it.
Right.
It's just in my head. I'm like, yeah, at one point we were, you know,
Right.
but I get the description as well because the person is trying to find a word, and underground comes to mind probably way faster to some than independent. That's
Right. Well, I mean, to most, it definitely was the way that I characterized it for years too. But I also have very intentionally, for years now, been calling it independent because I get it. And not only do I get it, but now I understand what being impeccable with your word truly means. So like when I first, and I read it probably 4 times, the 4 agreements, and after those 4 times, I still felt like being impeccable with your word mostly meant doing what you say you're going to do, which is of course very important. But what I understand now after years of guidance and coaching is that being impeccable with your word is not saying anything that you don't want to be true, because words are spells and you are manifesting what you say, especially if you say it over and over and over again. And so I
repetition
think it's
becomes belief.
right.
Words sound power. We have all of these different analogies to like we were just talking earlier about how God said in the beginning, God said let there be light, and then there was light. That means that the vibration comes first. We
Mm,
speak shit into existence, so yes, we have to be impeccable with our word for sure.
work.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, and I think it it can be confused. It can be
Mm,
confusing, um, but it's definitely just being on point with what you are creating in your world, and also being aware. Like we say so many things, in a moment. I say a whole bunch of shit, but I also know that I'm sarcastic. Like that's a part of my nature is being sarcastic. So I know the difference, but you know the difference between a joke or when you're being funny or being lighthearted about something and when something is really affecting you. And I say a whole bunch of shit because that's just how I am. But that's also
right.
me letting the steam go. You
Well,
know,
right. To me, the interesting thing about that is that, everybody is different, and you are the king of diamonds, so you
Hmm.
are very grounded and rooted and probably not so shifted by those unintentional musings, but there
Yeah,
are people who are more made of air, who will say some shit and 5 minutes later it will happen. And so you have to be
yeah.
careful about what you say. So it's really important to know who you are. And I
There you
just think
go.
that it is also important to be present enough to be aware of what, be intentional about what you're saying.
Exactly, and that's
And
what I
if you're
said. Be
going to be
aware. Yeah.
sarcastic and make a joke, do it intentionally. If you're trying to
Yep.
manifest, do it intentionally. I do think that it is worth doing the work to slow down and become present
Yeah.
and aware of
Yes.
self and know what you're saying and the intention, the mark you intend to leave on the world with that saying before you say it.
Yes, yes. You know, we have right now we have what we call time on our hands.
Mm,
You know, when it's really not. You know, everything's happening right now. Um, but to our perception, you know, we have time on our hands, and you know, it's like I feel like I feel like we have to be just as much as we walk through this wavelength, aware of all of these things, to live consciously, to be conscious breathers, to be involved in our creation and what we're creating. Um, I feel like part of the lightheartedness and part of the being here and knowing that, you know, I'm here, so anybody that pops into my viewpoint in a moment is going to be there with me. But you know, we're also going to have some different things. I am a personality here just as much as I'm a soul. So
mm,
part of my personality is sarcasm, it's humor. Um, I'm a pretty relaxed brother, if you haven't figured that out. Like, you know, these are all just part of who I am as I personify this,
right.
which is everything. But I can't just like, "What?" So, you know, it's got to come through this. And, you know, I'm aware of it. So it keeps me lighthearted. You know, I do have my moments of being pissed off, you know, but they're like pops, like grease popping, you know, like
Yeah.
I have my moment, but then
Let it go.
I'm back. Yeah, you know, because I do move through this. You know, unless I'm sitting by myself like I am right now, then you know, there's all types of different energy that I have to deal with. You know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And the last thing that I want to say, before I defer to you, before we find somebody to rate out to, is that when folks talk about this place being Earth, being the hardest or most challenging soul school in the cosmos, the reason why it is the most challenging soul school is because it is the most solid seeming. So we have to deal with the material world to a greater extent
yeah,
than we do in other dimensions or other planets or whatever.
everything is attracted to this right now because of the wavelength that it's on. Yes, this is.
Right. But it's seeming solid, like you can look up the science.
Yeah,
We are mostly empty air. You can take all 8 billion people on the planet, and if you compress the empty space between those cells, all 8 billion of us will fit in a thimble. So it's solid seeming. And that may
hologram.
seem like, why did she go to this weird way off
It's a
place?
hologram. Yeah.
Because it is a hologram, because we have much more control over it than it seems. Because we can create, or we are literally always manifesting. But oftentimes, most of the time, we're manifesting from an unconscious pattern or wound.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you know and
Definitely.
so we want to wake up and start to slowly recognize how much control we actually have there. And
Mhm.
it's interesting, again, back to your talking about paradoxes, because we have a lot more control than we think, but we generally are also better off surrendering.
Yes. Yes.
So it is,
That's the
it's all these
paradox. I say
interesting
yes.
paradoxes out
When
here.
you
But
realize the paradox, then you realize the pook. It's and it doesn't make it. It doesn't. It gives you tool. It gives you a tool. You know, it gives you a tool to work with. But it's definitely work. You know, you can have fun with it. or you can agonize through it, but the work
Mm,
has to be done, and I feel like the more you just do it and flow with it, then your creation becomes better and more in line with what you want to create for yourself.
Ashe.
Because we fight ourselves so much by getting caught up in this hologram. It's very
It's a
easy to just.
hologram. It's a video game of sorts. Like,
No, I love that. If my friend used that, my friend told me this like 20 years ago, man, and it stuck in my head. But he was just like, "Yeah, it's like a video game, and you're in this video game, and you got everything that you need. Sometimes you have to look for it. Sometimes you happen upon it. Sometimes it's right there, and you know exactly what you have to." Like the way he broke it down was exactly the perfect analogy for life, and I was like, wow, he blew my mind with it in the moment. And now that I've like rode with it for like 20 years, it's like, man, it's so true. Everything is here, like Alice in Wonderland. We have everything we need. To make us bigger, smaller, like it's all there. It's just we need to focus on it, and when we and a lot of times learning how to focus on it is kind of just like you said, surrender and just kind of being here, just being here,
be
finding a
here
moment to just
now.
be here.
Present
you
moment.
know?
Present
We do
moment.
that all the time. If someone asks you a question or you ask a question to someone and you're waiting for an honest answer, there's a moment when there's nothing going on in your mind because you
Mm,
are waiting to hear what they have to say. And that is the moment that we should be living in pretty much all the time, because we'll see so many different signs and so many different things that we miss because our mind is rambling and we're caught up in shit, and the minute we stop and just kind of just check things, you hear birds sing, you hear everything, you hear all of this stuff going on, but and it becomes a symphony at some point because now your mind is not jambling it up and you yeah,
right. You're
and this
not
is what
stuck
we're
in the
moving into.
past or the future. You're here. I definitely one I am so grateful for my path, as hard as it's been, if for no other reason than the fact that I could be having the worst day ever and I can literally look up at the clouds, take a deep breath, and completely shift
Mhm.
how I'm feeling about what I'm going through. And it may sound wild as fuck, but it's true. Like, with enough intentional work on being present instead of in the past or in the future, and you will really recognize that there's beauty all around all the time, even at the worst of
Yep.
times. And you can literally, the best things in life really are free, you know anyway.
Yeah.
um so yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling on my what do you call it, soapbox, on my soapbox.
Soapbox on
I'm
the
gonna
Hella
find
Random
somebody for
Radio
us to
Show.
raid. Yeah,
Right.
so if nobody has any
Mhm.
suggestions of who to raid, I would
What
either
is
go
it?
to DJ Low Key here in Colorado or DJ Morse Code um in LA. Well, not but of course, but I'm looking up to see that Wise Up is asking for a card. And so hell yeah, why not? You don't mind if I pull a card, do you, bro?
Nope.
All righty. So let's see what the message of the day is. Interesting. And we got the Five of Cups. And of course, I am a cardology practitioner. I just happen to have some tarot decks. So for me, the Five of Cups is the Five of Hearts, which is a change of heart. Fives are all cards that suggest that
Music.
we are experiencing the energy of change and freedom. you know, and getting free. Shout out to Mihar Araquez. Thank you so much for coming through, family. Um, and so, yeah, in tarot, I know that the Five of Hearts oftentimes is talking about the endings
And new
of
beginnings. The
relationships.
cups, yeah, yeah, the beginning is the ending of relationships, but in a wide sense, your relationships, maybe personal relationships with other people, or relationships that you have with certain parts of yourself that you are releasing, but you are releasing this to make room for something new that is that's coming in.
Right.
It's
I mean, and
kind
it's
of the
really
same shit.
hard
It's a
to let
transition.
go. But I think to solidify or support what you were saying, in my opinion, the most interesting thing about the Five of Cups in the traditional tarot is that this figure is looking at these three overturned cups, but right behind that figure is the Two of Cups.
Two cups, yeah.
You know, so the what you desire is right behind you, but you're looking the wrong way.
Hmm.
You know, and so the suggestion is that if you are in a place where you feel like something is missing, where you don't have what it is that you truly want, then like Wise Up says, you know, it's your perspective that needs to shift. You know, you need to stop looking at the spilled milk and start figuring out what's left or
Hmm.
what you learned
Hmm.
from that spilled
Hmm.
milk and
Hmm.
what you can create from
Hmm.
what you learned,
Hmm.
you know.
Stop thinking about what you don't want and start thinking about what you do want. There's so many different transitions that people.
Shout out to Banna. We are so glad that you enjoyed the stream, Banna. I mean, what more, what better accolade? Thank you so much for being here, Banna. Wise Up is asking, do you stream Zen?
um Only when invited by my sister and other people. I'm so much not into this technology shit. It's like I know it. I write code. I do all kinds of stuff. I can make a website for some people to design it. Like I do all kinds of stuff. But as far as my energetic involvement, yeah, I have all of the presences, but I don't involve myself so much.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
And this is interesting. I'm glad that you said that. It reminded me that DJ Funklore had said earlier before we was talking about the kids, um, let me throw on a beat, you know, so that we could get some bars. So we're not going to do that today, DJ Funklore. But since my brother said that he will come on when I invite him, I think we'll definitely figure out some co-streaming situation
Oh,
so
man,
that
you could have
DJ
thrown that
Funklore
in there
can play some
earlier.
beats and Zen can spit some bars for us. That sounds like a wonderful idea for a stream.
Yeah, you bring me back. We have to, or either, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always down.
Dope,
We
dope. Thank you,
schedule it
One
up,
Love Below for the bits.
play some music and some other
Oh, the
shit.
Rebel says that she wants to sing the hook. We gonna fuck around and have a band before we get off this stream. Yes, I'm getting
Right on.
excited because you know my birthday is coming up, and I've been like, what? I gotta go wild for 50. You know, so I'm gonna figure out some interesting stuff. I'm gonna figure out some interesting stuff. Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen,
Let's make it
for
happen.
being here. I feel like the only vote that we got for the raid is for DJ Low Key. Take one more look to see if there are any newer streamers that could really use the attention. And I don't see anyone, so I guess DJ Low Key it is. So thank you so much. One Love Below. Bruce Willis said that he's gonna play the maracas.
Word. There it is.
Are you serious? Because that shit's cracking me up.
Hey, record yourself just like shaking them for like a long time. I'll cut that shit up. Peeky, 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 peeky.
The Rebel Ink feels like a word of, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna figure out some sort of a co-streaming situation where we can
For
really
your
get it
birthday,
cracking
we can
on
do
my
something for your
birthday.
birthday. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Alrighty, so we have less than 60, we have a 53, 52, 51 seconds before we stream over to DJ Low Key. Are there any last words? Brother Zen, Lord Zen Realism,
Much love to you
Legendary
all
Visionaries
and to
crew.
you. Give thanks, my sister, always.
Always, always. Alrighty. So while we wait for the raid out, I'm just gonna shout out everybody in the chat. Love to you, Rebel Inc. Thank you so, so, so much for sharing your time and energy with us.
Yes,
Shout
yes,
out to
yes. Thank
Chakra
you.
Ashram. Definitely follow Chakra Ashram. Um, a newer streamer, or at least in my purview, newer streamer, definitely got some dope stuff going on. Shout out to Wise Up in the Place to Be, definitely closing out the Earthseed Raid Train on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It is going to be going down in Wise Up's channel. Of course, shout out Bruce Willis, the One Love Below, DJ Cruz, 111 in the place to be, Banna for the fashion, Ronzi for the fashion, Mihar. Thank you so much, everybody. What do they always say? If I missed your name, charge it to my mind and not my heart. I really appreciate you all. And I think the raid is complete. So peace.